What if I told you that expecting one ad to generate a client is the same as expecting to get married after one date? In real estate, you've probably been taught to believe in that magic bullet, that one ad that just brings in tons of clients with one phone call. And today, I'm going to peel the curtains back and show you why that approach is costing you thousands in commissions. Take a look. Hey everyone, Kevin Small with 2Q Lead Generation Strategies. If you're brand new to our channel, we're so excited that you're here. What we're all about is helping real estate agents just like you go from being transactional and implement systems that help you build a business that is consistent. So if that's what you're after, this is the place to be. Please consider subscribing. Before we get going on today's video, one quick note: down in the description below, you'll find a link to our free guide, 104 video ideas. And trust me, after what we're going to cover today, you're going to need it. So go check that out, download it. It's a great resource. Today's video is called Digital Touchpoints for Real Estate, Converting Strangers into Clients. Now, the reason why this is so critical is because it's going to be the first of a video series. And in this video series, I'm going to walk you through a complete framework that transforms how you attract and convert cold traffic, people that have no idea who you are, and turning them into clients. And the process is a lot more detailed than you think, and that's why I'm breaking it up into several videos. Now, our clients who are implementing this process are seeing dramatic results in their not only generating leads, but more importantly, what's happening after the lead is generated and turning that into clients. So make sure you take great notes. This is the system that's working today in 2025. To start off, you have to understand that in today's journey of buyers and sellers online, it is requiring multiple touch points. Multiple touch points is no longer a nice thing to have, it's an absolute necessity. Google did a landmark study that contains a lot of great information that is quite shocking about buyer consumer behavior. And there were three major things found in this study. The first one is that the typical buyer will spend 7 hours reviewing your content before making a purchase. The second is they had 11 touch points with the brand prior to making that decision. And number three, they typically engaged on at least 4 platforms across the brand. So think about it. If that's what people are doing to make everyday purchases, think about how much more critical that is when people are buying and selling homes, one of the single biggest financial decisions they will ever make. So reality check: if you've been operating in a one and done kind of mentality with one ad, one phone call, one transaction, you're missing out, because buyers in today's world operate very differently. So just to kind of set the stage and show you the difference, let's talk about the difference of a real estate buyer in 2010 versus 2025. So just to kind of walk you through this, these are the digital touch points. And as we do the comparison between 2010 and 2025, let's just take a look at this. So in 2010, 15 years ago, here's what that buyer journey in real estate would look like. First of all, they would do a little bit of initial research. And what they did was they primarily relied on things like magazines, newspapers, and just driving through neighborhoods to start conducting their search and becoming more aware of what was out there. The second thing they would do is that's when they would typically reach out and contact an agent. They would do this very early in the process just because a lot of times they didn't have access to all that information. They were still very heavily reliant on the agent for that data. And that leads us to the third step, the property discovery. Again, they were heavily dependent on the agent providing that data and all of the MLS listings. Number 4 were home tours. So they would usually view anywhere from 10 to 15 different properties that were scheduled and facilitated by you, the real estate agent. Then they would get to the point of making a decision, and that was based largely on those in-person viewings and guidance from you, the expert. Sixth were the information sources. Again, their information was very limited to your expertise, some printed materials, and at the time, there were just a few basic websites. There was nothing super robust or anything that contained a ton of information. And so their timeline was typically about 3 to 4 weeks from their initial search to the time that they submitted an offer. The communication was predominantly phone calls and in-person meetings, just because texting and those kind of things, although it existed, it just wasn't as prevalent then as it is now. And then the financing, they would typically just go through a local bank because, again, that's just what they usually had access to or they were familiar with. And then, again, just primarily paper based closings. They'd go show up, sign papers, and that was it. And so this is basically what the buyer journey looked like in 2010. But just to give you a different perspective as to why the system I'm going to be sharing with you over these videos, over these series of videos, is so critical, let's look at what today's looks like. So if we move forward to 2025, when we start going through these different steps, their initial research now, it begins with an extensive online research across multiple platforms and conducting their own virtual tours online. Because so much of this information has moved online, they are less dependent on you than they've ever been in the history of buying buying and selling real estate. So, number two, their digital engagement. They'll typically consume 7+ hours of content across multiple platforms before they ever even make contact with a real estate agent. And so this is where your digital strategy really matters, right? What is the content that you're putting out there? What are you driving them to as part of this journey? And if you're missing that opportunity, you are not getting in front of people as they're conducting their own research. See, this is the key step. If you're the one out there providing the content and getting in front of them as they're making this, doing this research, then you're missing opportunities. This is how you're going to connect, build your brand, build that credibility and trust so that you're the one that they want to work with. Okay, this is the point where when it comes to agent selection, a lot of times now they are researching multiple agents, but they're doing a lot of that online. And they're doing that based on a lot of the videos that they're watching, reading reviews of different websites, and following people on social media to see what they're doing to work with their clients. This is why they start going on different platforms as they're making this decision of who they want to work with. Okay, number four, virtual exploration. They're going to start viewing dozens of properties. Virtual tours are going to be a main thing that they're going to do. These 3D models and video walkthroughs. Again, they want to consume as much of this on their own to make decisions prior to ever even getting in contact with you. And so, again, this is a major part of their search, and you want to be helping them facilitate all of this digital research that they're doing. So, data analysis, they study neighborhood statistics, price trends, school ratings, and commute times. Again, they're doing all of this independently. So, here's another little win. You can just start thinking now when it comes to what type of video content should I be doing? Well, this is the research that they're doing. So, if you're the one putting the content out there, you become the source of information. Powerful, powerful distinction. Okay, narrowed search. So after eliminating the majority of the properties because of all the research and digital tours that they're doing, they're only going to ask for an in-person viewing of just a handful of properties because they've pre-eliminated the other ones they were potentially interested in. Okay, decision support. This is where they expect you to provide expertise that's well beyond any of the research and what they've been doing. So this is where your off-market insights, your training, your experience, this is where you become extremely valuable to them. But again, this isn't until much later in the process. If you're wondering how to get in front of them before they get to this point so that you are the one they want to get that advice from, it's doing all of these other things up front and providing that valuable information so that you become the source of information that they're researching, right? Communication, multi-channel engagement across text, email, video calls, and social media. Nowadays, especially I've seen this a lot with agents when they're working with someone who's relocating. Not uncommon for them to do like a video walkthrough of a home without the buyers even being there, or doing a meeting on Zoom or things like that. These are things that were unheard of 15 years ago, but that is now becoming the norm in today's economy. me. So with that, let's move to a number 11, the timeline, 6 to 8 weeks of digital research before contacting the agent. And then it's typically faster because of all the research they've done. And then lastly, post-purchase remains connected to agent through social media and digital content after closing. So this is a very different journey in 2025 than what 2010 looked like. And so a lot of the reason I want to get into this with you is because, the most critical part of this transformation is that in 2010, the agent was involved from nearly the beginning, right, of the process of them searching. Whereas in 2025, the agent really isn't getting into the picture until they're about 60 to 70% of the way through their journey. And so all that means is that decision making is happening earlier in the process. And if you're not providing that content and being part of that research, then you're missing out, and you're not following the buyers and sellers on the journey that they're making right now, and you're going to miss those opportunities in today's market. So the reason why this matters is because I talk with so many agents that say, well, Kevin, I ran one ad and it didn't work. And then you start asking them what they did, and they're like, well, I ran one ad and I generated some leads, and I picked up the phone and I called them, but nobody wanted to go buy a home. And what they're missing is this. Again, the key numbers you've got to remember: 7 hours of content, 11 touch points, contacts, 4 platforms. If your marketing doesn't incorporate that, I hope this is painting a clear picture that you are missing out on the buyer's journey that is occurring right here, right now in 2025. See, research shows that people need between 5 to 12 contacts to have any kind of trust or recognition with a brand to make a purchase. And for something like real estate, it's even more than that. So the truth is, if you make 1 or 2 videos and it doesn't produce the results you're looking for and you walk away from it, you're really just missing out on what's truly happening in today's market. I could share with you tons of case studies, testimonials of my clients who have built follow-up systems that included tons of video, where it was just video after video after video after video across multiple platforms. And through that repetitive process, they earned the trust and the business of the people that they've been marketing to. So it all boils down to what we call the trust equation. And the trust equation is consistency plus value plus accessibility equals conversion. And so that's the overview of why this is so important when we look at the buyer journey from 2010 to 2025. All of those touch points along the way are very different now than what they used to be. And it just sets the stage of how important and how fundamental Google's research study is, showing that it requires 7 hours of content, 11 touch points across 4 different platforms. And that is the fundamental video series that we're going to be sharing with you. Today was really just the overview, but what we're going to be getting into in the rest of the series are the critical steps for real estate agents in each of these sections. And that's what you have to look forward to in this video series. And so by the end of this series, you're going to have a very clear picture and process of how to create your marketing that incorporates this entire buyer's journey. The real estate agents who thrive in today's market are not the ones with the most money or the largest advertising budget. They're the ones that have systems in place that incorporate this multi-touch point reality. And so here's your action step that's going to lead into our next video. And that is, do a marketing audit. What does your marketing currently look like? How many platforms are you consistent on? How many touch points do you have in your follow-up process? And are you providing the kind of materials that buyers and sellers will be searching for as part of their journey? By doing that audit now, it's going to help you identify areas that you need to improve as we walk you through this system. Now that you understand why the one and done approach doesn't work and is failing, in the next episode, we're going to get into establishing yourself on that first critical platform, social media. I'll show you the exact content ratios that are converting lookers into leads, including the one type of content that outperforms everything else by 300%. So join us for the next video in the series to master your real estate marketing. So make sure you subscribe and hit the notification to make sure you don't miss any part of this transformational series. Also, you can look down in the description to download that 104 video ideas guide. And if you're ready to go even deeper, there's a link to our calendar where you can schedule a strategy session to learn how to implement this system for your business. That's it for today's video. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.